Hello and welcome to Auto Shenanigans. How the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John. Thank you very much for joining me for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. I'm between Swinton and Broomhouse, two suburbs found on the east side of Glasgow, and I've come to look at the shortest motorway on the UK mainland, the A8M. But just how short is it? About 300 metres. And that's not even a quarter of a mile, so there'll be no living your life 10 seconds at a time here, thanks very much. The A8M was completed in 2017, making it the newest motorway to be constructed in Scotland and indeed the entirety of the UK. So what does the A8M actually do then? Well, it provides local access between the Swinton roundabout and the Balanding interchange, where we find the M73 and the M8 motorways. It serves a useful motorway interchange then, but why go to the trouble of building such a short motorway in the first place? Maybe a dual carriageway or some slip roads would have done. Ordinarily, that may well be the solution, but there's a problem. If we take a look at the Balanding interchange, we can see that whilst it does allow access to the M8 and the M73 motorways, there are no other local routes or roads for traffic to take, so it's onto the motorway or not at all. With that in mind, ideally we'd like to keep non-motorway traffic away from the interchange, so if you build a 300-metre long link road connecting local roads to the motorway interchange, you're going to need the link road to be under motorway regulations to achieve that. So with the A8M being the only road you can use to access the larger motorways, the entire stretch and interchange is under motorway regulations. And that's all fine, but it still begs the question, why build a short motorway in the first place? Surely some slip roads would have been cheaper and easier? Well, yes, ordinarily that may well be the case, but the problem here is with the interchange itself. The interchange predates the A8M by a considerable amount, having opened in the 1970s as part of the M73. Back then, it was a simple and straightforward diamond roundabout style junction where you'd have found the A8. The problem is that the interchange is old, and over the years, the surrounding infrastructure has been slotted in around it rather than being built from the ground up, which has led to some interesting design and layout choices and perhaps an overly complicated interchange. One piece of infrastructure that was slotted in came in 1980 with the construction of the M8 motorway, and it was at this point the interchange saw its first major redesign. What was before a simple junction saw the addition of linking slip roads between the M8 and the M73 motorways whilst retaining the access between the A8 to and from the roundabout. At the time, the M8 motorway terminated at this interchange, and from this point onwards you'd have picked up the A8. The interchange would stay this way for about 35 years before plans were put in place to extend the M8 motorway. This meant what was previously the A8 would be converted to a motorway, and this presented two problems. First, you've just removed the A8 by turning it into a motorway, and that's jolly lovely, but perhaps not the best practice. Ideally, we'd like to keep the A8 as well as having the motorway. They thought about that though, and built the M8 motorway extension along a different alignment, keeping hold of a lot of the original A8. The second problem is that you've still got an A road linking up with your interchange. It's the other bit of the A8 that we sort of forgot about. Now that we've got nothing but motorways here, we need to prevent non-motorway traffic from coming this way. After all, we've created a new A8 for them to use, so we'll send the traffic around here and make a small section of road with motorway regulations to prevent non-motorway traffic from accidentally finding its way onto the M8 or the M73. And this led to the construction of the A8M, which was probably the cheapest solution given the interchange's history. Sure, you could have knocked it all down and rearranged the lot, but that would have been far too expensive, so it seems they've made best use of what they've got, and as I said, slotted in the infrastructure around the existing interchange. Okay, that's enough story. Let's take a look at the motorway itself. Like I said, it's around 300 metres long. Some sources say it's 280 metres, other sources say 320 metres. Whatever, it's short. It has no junctions and features dual lane running in both directions, so it's a featureless motorway with nothing going for it and a mere formality of some road planning that was unavoidable. Well, yes, but there are at least one or two things we can explore. On the north side of the motorway is a pond with an access road. It's what's called a balancing pond, and these seem to be a requirement when it comes to modern motorway building. They have two primary functions. The first is to collect excess water runoff. Motorways act as massive water collectors, so in the event of heavy rain, the motorway's drainage system will send any excess water down to here, preventing any flooding of the main carriageway. The second function is environmental control. There's no point collecting up all this water if it's been contaminated by diesel or oil following an accident on the motorway. You don't really want contaminated water to find its way into the local rivers or waterways, so there are pollution control devices installed to take care of that. I did a video that looked at these devices in a bit more detail, but in short, they detect when water is contaminated, and when they do so, they close a dam or a sluice gate to prevent the water from going anywhere. An alert is then sent out to a maintenance team who can come and collect the water manually via a tanker and dispose of the water safely, meaning no diesel gets into our drinking water. These devices and balancing ponds are common features on modern motorways, and I believe they're even built into the planning regulations now, so you have to build these alongside any modern motorway. Despite being such a short motorway, it does feature a bridge. It's not massive, standard, and it's made out of concrete, so in about 10 years, once it's weathered, it's going to look like garbage. However, there is a public path that allows you to get up close and personal with the bridge, if that's your sort of thing. I don't have any impressive stats for this bridge, it's just some bridge that takes the A8M over one of the M73 slip roads. Just on the south side of the motorway is this stretch of abandoned road, and to me it looks like it used to be a fairly major road. And indeed it was. This is part of the original A8. We mentioned earlier how the A8 was routed through the interchange. Well, this section predates all of that and indeed all of the motorways. This map shows how things used to look before the M73 came along and spoiled everyone's day. But if we go back further and look at an even older map, our abandoned road is nowhere to be seen, and instead the main road through the area looks to be this one here. Whilst I'm not sure of the precise road numbers back then, it stands to reason that this stretch of abandoned original A8 isn't the original A8. It seems that this abandoned road started to appear on maps as the A8 in the mid-1900s, and then the motorway came along and of course changed everything. Speaking of changes, if we go back to an older satellite image, not only can we see that same stretch of abandoned road, but the area to the southwest of the interchange and to the south of the not yet built A8M is all fields. Today, housing. And that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, there is of course a button specifically for that. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. That would be wicked sweet awesome. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is you get up to. My name's John, you've been watching Auto Shenanigans, and I'll see you next time for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. Until then, take care, bye bye.